As a chef and a nutritionist, I often get asked, why do you think our nation is so sick? My answer, what do we do every day? We eat food. I live with illness and have used food to help me get well and feel better. So my goal here is to teach you to do the same. Eating healthfully does not have to be about Birkenstocks and dreadlocks. So chew on this. Hi, and welcome to Chew on This. Today's guest is Isaac Tilstra, and we are here to talk about crazy kidney stones because you have quite a history of kidney stones. And the kidneys are something that are close to my heart because I have a kidney disease, and so I've known you for a long time, and I've never known this about you, and we ran into each other outside of Starbucks one day, and you were complaining, and there began this conversation. So what I want to understand from you, Isaac, and I want everybody out there to understand is, what have you been through, and when did this start, and how did it start? Because there's a lot that went on in your childhood. So,
started probably when I was about 23.
Okay.
Had some really bad flank pain in my back. Had no clue what it was. Thought I was dying. Went home from work. Started feeling worse.
It's a very sharp, piercing pain.
Yeah, it's a very sharp, piercing pain.
Right.
Laid down for a while. The pain just kept getting progressively worse.
Right.
Eventually, my wife Maria called the ambulance, and they took me to the hospital. And then they diagnosed me with kidney stones at the age of about 23.
At 23.
Yeah.
Okay, so what'd they do?
What they did is about a week later, they did the lithotripsy,
Okay.
which broke up the stones.
So lithotripsy, let's talk about what that is. That's taking, I guess, it's like a laser almost?
I think it's more sound waves.
Sound waves that go
Correct.
up against your skin
Correct.
and try or attempt to break apart the stones without doing invasive.
Right, right,
Okay.
without cutting into your body and removing them. So they did that. Everything was good. I passed the stones within about 2-week period.
Okay.
Then it was okay until I was about 27.
Okay.
I had them again. That time was a little bit worse.
And who were you seeing? Who was monitoring your care?
I saw Dr. Malkowitz in Southampton.
Okay. So you were working with a urologist?
Correct.
Okay.
And he did the lithotripsy again. I passed the stones about 2 to 3 weeks later. And then in that time frame, I'm asking him how I could get help. And he's not giving me too much information.
Okay.
So about a year and a half ago, I had another episode.
Okay.
I had 5 stones moving at the same time. They put 2 stents in my ureters on both sides.
So stents are put in to open up the passageway so the stones can come through.
Correct. Correct.
Okay.
It helps with the urine to pass into your bladder
Right.
so that you can urinate. But they did the 2 stents.
Right.
And then about a month and a half later, they did the lithotripsy again. So I had the stents for about a month and a half.
And you were in the hospital for a while this time, right?
I was 3 days.
3 days.
Yeah.
2 kids.
2 kids.
You have your own business.
Yeah.
Right.
Work, and obviously work takes precedence over healthcare sometimes. But
Which it shouldn't.
I know. But you know, this definitely took precedence because I was in excruciating pain. I couldn't barely walk. They put me on a lot of pain medications,
Right.
Which my body didn't agree with. So I tried not to take those as much as I could.
Because typically, the one thing that you and I have spoken about is you don't like to take any medications. You really
Correct.
are not in favor of seeing doctors because you've seen a lot of doctors
Right.
in your earlier part of your life.
Yeah.
Right.
So when I was a kid, my parents took me to a doctor at the age of about 6.
Right.
I was having some behavioral issues.
Which you still have, right?
Which I still have. Not as much. But yeah, they took me to Dr. Potter was his name.
Right.
He put me on some supplement medications. I asked my mother what other medications they put me on. It was lithium.
Right.
And I think some lithium thyroid.
Okay.
And then I took that for about 3 years, from what they're telling me.
Right. But didn't you you have some, we were talking before the show, and you had some back pain when you were younger.
I did.
And it was thought that perhaps your shoes weren't right.
Correct. When I was at the age of about 12, I was always complaining that my back was hurting.
Right.
So my parents took me and bought the best shoes that they could find, thinking that it was my arch in my foot.
Maybe you should have seen a nephrologist.
Yeah, exactly.
Right?
But it didn't help. It did a little bit, but not enough to relieve the pain. From this last episode, I still have a lot of flank pain. I think I have a lot of scar tissue from the stones and the stents being put in.
And they can be debilitating. Kidney stones can be extremely debilitating. And the type that you have are calcium oxalate stones, right, which are the most common form of kidney stones. And the way that we nutritionists like to look at, kidney stone scenarios, how can we remedy it through diet?
Right.
And so we look at it as though where salt goes, calcium goes. So it's a low salt diet, right?
Right.
And then oxalates, which bind with the calcium, we want to reduce that in your diet. And unfortunately, oxalates are everywhere.
Yeah.
And so my advice to you, of course, because I think in your exact words, is you don't think you could live through
No way.
another experience like this, is that diet is really an important component of managing kidney stones. And unfortunately, you were not told this by the doctors that you were working with, nor were you sent to a nephrologist. So one of the main points that I want to bring out is that when you do have any kind of acute condition or health concern, you want to understand what body part it's affecting, and you want to go see that particular doctor in that specialty. So whereby urologists deal with the kidneys, the nephrologist is the doctor who really is focused solely on the kidneys. And so a lot of times, no matter how amazing a doctor is, if they're in a specialty, they're going to stay in their specialty and not think outside of the box. And so it's important that we become our own health advocates. And I think, like I always say, and I said to you before, illness is a full-time job that you just don't want.
Right.
And unfortunately, you're in that scenario now where you have to take control and make some changes. And your wife is being incredibly supportive. Yep,
she helps a lot.
So, one of the things that I love, Isaac had filled out a food diary for me, and I'm looking at you saying, I'm taking you from a no foods diet to a whole foods diet. Right?
Yeah, I don't eat very much.
No, you don't. And with your on-the-go lifestyle, you have a lot of challenges. You're running your own business, so that, imparts a tremendous amount of stress, which, as we spoke about, is a huge component of health management, is reducing stress. Diet, okay? Also, sometimes looking into other methodologies of treatment. Go and see the specialist. Go and see the nephrologist. But then also, perhaps acupuncture we spoke about. In marrying the different types of medicine, because right now we want to prevent, you've got how many more stones forming now?
2, 1 on each side right now.
Okay, so where are you at? I know you went to see a nephrologist finally.
I did. He told me that I need to take some blood tests.
Okay.
An array of blood testing, a 24-hour urine test.
Okay.
I made appointments this week to go for next week.
Okay.
And
you're getting imaging too?
Yes, I'm getting a CAT scan, and then I have to go back in May for him to read the results and tell me what's going on from there.
So the thing with you, Isaac, is that we really don't know what's causing all of these kidney stones. And you have not been getting any answers. You just have this history of recurrence, but you're not getting any answers from anybody. Nobody's doing any real diagnostics on you. So that's where you're at right now, is trying to understand, do you have a kidney disease that predisposes you to these kidney stones, or perhaps, okay, which could be a slim possibility, but lithium, being on lithium when you're a child, if you have a kidney disease, lithium is a drug that you are told to avoid, because lithium is a salt. So, and that's the first question. When I was going through trying to get diagnosed, because both of my kidneys are calcified, one of the first questions the doctors would ask me is, are you on lithium? Because they know that if you go on lithium, then what happens is that it's a salt and then calcium can follow.
Right. I think when I was started on lithium, it was first coming out and being well known. So I don't even think they tested my kidneys for if it was doing anything to my kidneys at all.
Right. So you don't really know, and we don't know the answer, and perhaps we may never know the answer, which ultimately is your own job to let go of and to take this journey and to understand what's going on and how you can treat it. So what we're here to do today is to talk about food, and I, as you know, I wrote a little menu for Isaac that is downloadable on my website at stephaniesacks.com. And it goes through a low-oxalate, low-sodium, and anti-inflammatory diet. So anti-inflammatory is also necessary because you are inflamed. When you're reactionary systemically, okay, you're inflamed. So we always want to look at a whole foods-based diet.
Right.
But it's an obstacle course with you, unfortunately.
Right.
Because a lot of the healthy foods have the oxalates. So you can also download a list that oxalates in food, which I had given you. So it tells you the high oxalate containing foods, the moderate, and
you have to read that every day because I don't know.
The low.
Yeah.
Right, exactly. And you'll get used to it. It takes time and it's practice. But in the end, here you're saying you don't ever want to go through this again, and we're working on tools.
Right.
So we are going to go into the kitchen in a few minutes, and Isaac is from Louisiana. And you love jambalaya. Okay. Unfortunately, jambalaya is a high oxalate containing dish, and so I'm deoxalating it for you.
Okay.
And you also constantly tell me that you don't have time. You don't have time to eat. You don't have time to, pretty much pour cereal into a bowl. Okay.
Right.
So we're going to do a little challenge.
Okay.
Okay. And thank you, and let's jump into the kitchen.
Yeah.
Hi, we're here with Isaac Tilstra, and we are talking about kidney stones and how you can prevent recurrence with the foods you choose. Now, Isaac has sort of a no foods diet. You don't make the healthiest choices, but now we're in a place where we really need to get you to eat a whole foods diet and a food-based diet and eat more regularly throughout the day. And the challenge here is that we have to look at a diet that's low in oxalates so we can help prevent the oxalates from binding to the calcium in your body to form more stones. Also a low salt diet, right? And then an anti-inflammatory diet, which generally speaking is a whole foods-based diet. We've got a lot of negotiating to do. So we are going to make a chicken jambalaya. Now, traditionally, jambalaya has celery, it has parsley, green pepper. Unfortunately, those foods are high in oxalates. So we've replaced it with some red pepper. We're going to do corn. We're going to do zucchini, which you like.
I do.
We're going to do basil. So we're doing a version of it. And we're going to start out. Isaac likes to cook, but you don't want to cook right now.
Nope.
So we're going to start out with some olive oil. Okay. We'll turn this on to I always like to keep the heat at a medium to medium low.
Okay.
If you let the food get overheated, it can oxidize, which can cause what we call free radicals, or I like to call them little Pac-Men in your body that just go around and they cause cell inflammation, and these are the things that we want to stay away from.
Okay.
So we're going to start with our little garlic here, and we're going to we put some chopped garlic in, and we're going to grab our onion. So who does the cooking at home for you?
My wife does.
She does. Okay, and what does she normally cook?
She cooks a lot of chicken. We do a lot of turkey.
Okay.
Like ground turkey, or she'll buy a turkey breast.
Okay.
And I'll grill it on the grill or something like that. But yeah, and a lot of rice.
Right, very
some
basic.
Pasta, lots of spaghetti because it's easy.
Easy, exactly. So here we have our onion, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to slice it down like this. You can see that I've kept
Didn't
that.
cut it all the way.
Exactly. So now when I slice it, you've got a dice. Now onions are a little higher in oxalates, so we're only going to use half of the onion.
Okay.
And again, your eating is not about avoiding everything. It's about understanding which foods are higher in the oxalates, or which foods, like processed foods, processed meats, soups, have a lot of sodium.
Okay.
And it's about just negotiating, because you don't want to end up where you were, which was in the hospital about a year ago. Again, for your third time. So we've got the garlic and the onions. Okay. And then what we're going to do is we're going to toss our chicken in. So this chicken here is antibiotic-free chicken. Okay. I like to use all my meats that are free of antibiotics and hormones, if they're anything other than poultry, because poultry does not use.
And it usually says that on the package?
It will say it on the package.
Okay.
Yep. So we're doing that there, and I'm going to just grab this spoon here to mix it around, and we'll let this cook as we prep the rest of our vegetables. And one of the things that we had briefly spoken about, I can just put this right here, was salt replacements.
Correct.
Okay, because the thing is not adding salt. The reason I chose to do the jambalaya is because it's a great way to show how you can use fresh herbs and spices, not salt necessarily, to flavor food. Okay. Right? Yep. So here's our trusty zucchini, where we cut the ends off, and this is a low-oxalate food, like so.
One of my favorites.
Okay. I'm going to turn this up just a tad. Okay. And it takes practice to cut like that. Do you want to try? No, no trying. How about the kids? Do the kids cook at home?
Sarah does sometimes. My 12-year-old likes to cook with Maria.
She does.
She
okay.
Does.
And
she cooks a lot of the times when the kids get home from school and they got homework, so she doesn't always get to, but she does like to cook.
But the kids are around it, and they're watching her.
Yep.
Great. Now, what I'm curious is, what is the biggest challenge for you in transitioning to this type of eating regimen?
It's more or less knowing what foods I can eat in moderation. Okay. Because I don't know. So that list that you gave me, I usually take with me. Okay. And then Maria has it too, and she shops that way with that list in front of her. That's great. So we're learning.
So it's all about guidance. So much of it is about guidance. And unfortunately, no matter what kind of illness you're dealing with, a lot of doctors, they don't talk about diet as a component of healing. Right. And so you ran into that problem.
I did ask my doctor.
You did?
And he had no answer for me. So.
Yeah. And that's tough, because doctors are not trained in food and nutrition at all, or very little when they're in medical school. So it's not their area of expertise. And so what I'm trying to do is give you these practical tools that are going to help guide you, because the transition is hard. So on my website, there's a downloadable list of high oxalate foods, moderate and low oxalate foods, and also the diet plan that I gave you guys to follow, which Maria is gaining weight on.
Yeah, she's trying. It's just that she's eating more often, that's all.
She's eating more often because we're trying to regulate her metabolism too.
Right.
Okay, so I've got some corn, which is a moderate oxalate food, and red pepper, which again is, the green peppers are higher in oxalates, the red are low. And I'm going to just show you how to cut the red pepper too. Okay. Is you smash it down like this. Most people will cut the red pepper here. The knife will slip. Right. So you turn it this way.
On the opposite side.
And you cut it like so. And then you can just dice it. And these recipes are on my website as well, this particular recipe. Okay. All right. And we'll put this in here. And then what I had gotten was a Cajun or Creole seasoning. Right. Which is a mixture of paprika, celery seed, garlic, basil, white pepper, cayenne pepper, thyme, and parsley. So some of these are higher oxalate containing, but again, we're looking at the quantity. You're not doing a ton of it. We've removed the parsley and the celery from here. So I always say, when you cook, you can always add, you can never take away. Right. So, so let's get back to, and this is going to lead us right into the topic of salt, because this is a no salt added. Okay. Because oftentimes any canned food will have salt added as a preservative, which is a natural preservative, which we want instead of some of the more unnatural ones like a disodium EDTA or potassium sorbate or benzoate. So the salt in general, you're best to avoid salt as much as you can in your instance. And we're going to cover this and let this cook for a bit.
Okay.
I'm going to actually cut some scallions too. But
is there a low salt?
There is. They have low salt salts, which is sort of a funny thing, a low salt
or
salt.
something to
and I'm not quite sure what they're cutting it with, but what I prefer to do is get seasonings. There's something called Herbamar, Trocomar, Spike, and what they are is they're seasonings that are herbs mixed with salt.
Right.
So again, we're doing kind of what we're doing here in using a lot of herbs and fresh herbs and spices. Okay. So these are, here's some basil, and we'll just put some basil in as well, chop it.
Do you recommend fresh basil over the stuff you buy in the jar?
If I can get fresh basil, I prefer it.
You do? Okay.
Yep. Look how beautiful that is.
Yeah, it looks good.
Doesn't that look good? Okay. So we're going to let that cook. And then in the meantime, I'm going to turn this on because I have a little challenge I want to give you.
Okay.
It's called my Spongebob challenge.
Spongebob challenge.
Okay. Okay. So one of your biggest things is you don't have time.
Right.
For anything, right? So I have some snack foods here.
Okay. Which
are quick things that you can carry with you. Apricots. Now you're probably used to seeing apricots that are bright orange, right?
Right.
Okay, that's because they have sulfur dioxide on them.
Okay.
And the sulfur dioxide helps preserve and retain freshness and flavor, but it's also a chemical preservative that can give many side effects. I mean, we did a show on sulfite allergies because it can cause tremendous allergy in a lot of people. So these are unsulfured apricots. They're delicious.
Good.
I get these at Trader Joe's, which is, they're located everywhere. You can try some too if you want. And here are some cranberries, dried cranberries.
Okay.
And you want to try this applesauce?
Yeah.
Okay, so Isaac, you're going to try this applesauce here.
That's the kid in me?
Yep, that's the kid in you. And that's just on the go. Apples are low in oxalates. What?
It said it tastes like applesauce.
Exactly. And grapefruits and oranges and avocado, all low in oxalates.
Okay.
And we've got raisins, and this is a almond coconut. Now, the trick here, so this is something that is great for you to snack on.
Right.
The coconut is low in oxalate, but the almonds are high. Okay, so this is where you say, okay, if I do one of these, it's not a big deal.
Right. Okay.
Okay?
Yep.
So back to what I'm going to challenge you with is making eggs.
Okay.
Okay, this is the Spongebob challenge.
Oh, boy.
Okay, and I brought my son Jack's Spongebob clock.
Okay.
And we have butter because you tell me that you don't have time to eat breakfast.
Right.
And my response is, how can you not?
Right.
It'll just take you a minute or two to put something together. Okay? So what I want to do is I want to time how long it takes to make an egg.
Okay.
Okay?
Yep.
So let's see. We will start now.
Okay.
Okay? Turning this on.
I think half my trouble with not eating breakfast is I get my best sleep in the morning.
Okay.
So I try to sleep as long as I can.
Right.
And then when I get up, I'm usually right out the door.
Right, but right now we're on 20 seconds, right?
Yep.
Okay. So it takes no time to do 2 eggs.
Right.
You can do a little bit of butter.
Okay.
Okay? It takes absolutely no time to do something like this.
Okay.
And you can just mix it around, break up the yolk, because that will cook more quickly. And then you can slice some avocado while this is cooking and have that with avocado and a piece of toast. And that's a great breakfast for you, a low oxalate breakfast, but you're getting something in your body. So far we're on a minute.
Right.
Okay. Let this cook. And do you like your eggs runny or cooked?
Cooked.
Cooked.
I don't have to worry about it.
You
The
what?
raw eggs. Yeah, I like them cooked.
You like them cooked. Okay, so here you pretty much got a cooked egg, and we are at 1 minute and 25 seconds.
Right.
Okay? Mm-hmm. So you're going to complain again about it?
No. Thanks.
All right, we can take a look at jambalaya over here,
Okay.
Isaac, which, can you smell?
Yeah, that smells good.
Smells nice, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
So I want to talk a little bit more about your appointment with your nephrologist now, because you went to see a nephrologist. And did he talk to you about your diet at all?
Not so much. He knew I was talking to you, so he kind of just left it in your hands.
Right.
He was more concerned with doing the blood testing. Yeah, and then once we go from there, he can maybe help me with antibiotics or something, some medication.
Form of treatment.
Yeah.
Right.
To see what we can do about controlling
the stones so they don't happen again. I'm just moving this to a bit of a larger burner because it seems that one's not agreeing with us. And then, do you do any planting? Do you grow any food? Do you do anything like that?
We don't. We tried last year to grow a garden. We started from the seeds.
Okay.
They didn't last to get to a plant.
Okay.
The weather was kind of weird last spring.
Right.
So we didn't end up doing that, but my daughter has been asking me many times to do that.
Okay.
So yeah, that would be something that we would do, absolutely.
Because that's a great way for you to, get more connected with food. Because I think for you, what's happened is because of your work, you're pulled so far away from what it is that you eat and how you eat. And so, when I asked you to keep that food diary, that was very helpful for you in understanding what you were eating and how you were eating.
Right.
And for me to look at it and say, okay, this is how we need to change it, or we can change it. But getting yourself a little more connected and involved in the food and the fresh food and understanding ingredients, which is a huge part of it for you, of what you can and can't eat. And so hopefully you're not going to be dealing with a recurrence at all.
Right.
So this is cooking nicely, and I had pre-cooked some rice. Now, you can actually cook the rice in this dish, but since the rice takes longer, I did it beforehand.
Yeah, that's how Maria usually cooks. She cooks it in with everything else.
In with everything else, absolutely. Absolutely. And that's a great way to do it. And this dish takes a teeny bit longer. I've cut the chicken fairly small, so it'll be cooked in about a minute or so.
Right. And it'll be good because my kids aren't picky with eating.
And the kids will eat something
like
that.
Yeah,
and that's great because a lot of kids wouldn't eat something like this. Right. And this is something too, because I think one of the things that you deal with, because you're always on the road with your work, is what do you do for lunch? And you can stop at so many different places, and you can buy takeout food until you're blue in the face. But something like this, you can also package and just bring with you in a little cooler.
That's my biggest complaint is my lunch.
Easy. Exactly.
Yeah.
So what we're going to do is we are going to give this a try before we close this show. It looks like it's cooking nicely.
That's good.
Okay, so we'll taste a little bit of this. And we'll just share it off the same plate. There you go.
Thank you. That's good.
Not bad. Very fresh. I think it could use a little more seasoning right there.
A little bit.
Okay. And I always like to lift it with salt, but you have to stay away from salt, and so do I.
Right.
So definitely check out my website. You can get the recipe. You can get a lot of tools, Isaac's menu, the oxalates in food. And thank you for joining us, and thank you, Isaac, for being here today.
No problem. Thanks for having me.
Thank you.